Welcome everyone to the reading that we have today. I'm joined by some wonderful authors, but I have a couple of little housekeeping things before we start. So welcome to the BSB Bookathon Winter Edition. We are excited to have you join us for the sessions. So we are joined today by Jaycie Morrison, Fiona Riley, Nicole Stiling, Nancy Wheelton, and I am Vali. So welcome everyone. We're going to do some readings, but like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to put those in that Q&A box. And then also we have that chat roll. So thank y'all for joining us. Why don't we start with Miss Nancy? You want to go ahead and begin? Tell us a little bit about your book and then go ahead and read.
We'll do that. I'm going to read from my latest book. There it is there. I'm going to read from my latest book, A Veterinary Technician. It's a lesbian romance set in the small rural town of Thresherton, Saskatchewan, Canada. Ronnie Yakamoto is a school teacher and riding instructor and has recently moved to Thresherton. Val Connor is a local veterinary technician and has just brought her daughter Gwen to a riding lesson taught by Ronnie. Val and Ronnie have met a few times and at this point are becoming friends. At 10:30, Ronnie pulled into Starview Farm. The stable owner thought she was crazy to ride her bike from Thresherton, but she'd given up years ago, explaining to people how a long cycling trip kept her mind clear of any desire to smoke pot again. It had taken her too long to get off the stuff and get her life somewhat in order. Ronnie stopped behind Val's car, dismounted, and removed her helmet as she watched Gwen leap from the car. Gwen's lesson started in 30 minutes, and she had to be early to learn to saddle her horse. "Morning, Ms. Yakamoto," Gwen called as she ran to the barn. "Helmet." Val stepped from the car and held up a riding helmet. Gwen circled back, grabbed the helmet, and jogged off. "Morning, Ms. Yakamoto." "Hey, Val." Gwen's excited. It's horses and riding. I used to feel the same way at her age. "I bet. No Dover today?" Val pulled on her ball cap as she spoke. "He can't keep up with the bicycle. He could when he was younger, but not at 14. He's an old dog now." "Oh, right, of course." Ronnie smiled at Val and tugged gently on the brim of the ball cap she bought Val as a thank you gift. What she really wanted to do was caress Val's cheeks, now red with a blush. "Getting a lot of use out of your new hat?" "I am. Still need a bucket of sunscreen for my poor neck." Val had the fair skin and freckles that went with her red hair. Ronnie ran a finger along the edge of Val's ear and felt her shiver. "Don't forget your ears." Val opened her mouth to speak, but just closed it again. Ronnie stared into Val's dark blue eyes with their dilated pupils and backed away. I'd better get in there and help with the saddling. Nice to see you." Ronnie turned and strode after Gwen, but she really wanted to run. Ronnie looked down at her hand. Surely it couldn't belong to her. Some supernatural power must have been operating it, because for some reason she just caressed Val's ear. She rubbed the tips of her fingers together. They still tingled from the contact, and it wasn't a sensation that said friendship. No, the sensation screamed for something more, and she wasn't going there. She shoved the traitorous hand in her pocket. "Val is my friend. Val is my friend." 30 minutes later, her students were mounted and circling her in the outdoor arena. "Everyone think about where your feet are. If you concentrate on proper placement now, it'll become a habit. Western riding is about directing your horse with your feet, not about pulling them with the reins." Ronnie frowned as she spotted Irene walking toward her. Irene was supposedly her old friend, but she was getting increasingly annoyed with her. Couldn't Irene see she was busy with a lesson? "Hey, Ronnie." "Irene?" Her students circled her and she watched carefully. "What a group of amateurs. I recognize that little redhead. Bounces like a ball. She quit my class last summer. She never could hang on with her knees, however many times I corrected her." Gwen's face blanched when she saw Irene, and it made Ronnie angry. Irene meant Gwen, the only student with red hair. Who could be mean to such great kids? Lessons should be fun. "Good job, Gwen. Squeeze with your knees. Yes, that's it. You're doing really great." Irene, I'm kind of busy. Can we talk later? Nope. I just tortured my last riding student of the day and I'm headed home. She stuffed something in the back pocket of Ronnie's shorts. Ronnie jumped and spun at the unwelcome contact. What's that? Present of the smokable kind. No thanks. Take it back. Ronnie yanked the packet out. Okay, Grandma. Irene snatched it back. When did you get so boring? Bye, Irene. Ronnie moved away to concentrate. She didn't smoke anymore and had told Irene that, but clearly she wasn't getting the message. Irene waved as she passed too close to the head of Gwen's horse. The horse jerked his head up, snorted, laid his ears back, and scrabbled sideways. Gwen grabbed the saddle horn and hung on. She looked terrified as she focused on Ronnie for help. It's okay, Gwen. You're okay. And Comet's a good horse. You'll be fine. Relax. Part of Ronnie wanted to run to Gwen and comfort her, but if she did that, the shying horse would become a bigger deal and eat away at Gwen's confidence. Gwen was stroking Comet's neck as much to calm herself. She would be okay. But would Val? Ronnie was not brave enough to look Val's way. That was a good lesson, people. Horses are unpredictable and scare easily. Always be prepared for them to freak out and never be afraid to hang on. Good recovery, Gwen. Well done. Gwen smiled her thanks. 45 minutes later, the children dismounted and led their horses to the barn. Assuming an air of nonchalance, Ronnie scanned the arena fence. Val waved at her and waggled a bottle of water. Thanks. Ronnie accepted the water and drank half in one pull. Val scowled. I saw that little stunt Irene pulled. I waited for her, but she must have left through the back laneway. Ronnie lowered the water bottle and registered the fury in Val's eyes. Sorry about that. I'll talk to the stable owner. It won't happen again. Val squeezed Ronnie's forearm. I'm not blaming you. You're a wonderful teacher. Gwen loves the lessons. You're patient and make learning fun. Thanks. It wasn't as if she planned the lessons. She just made it up as she went. Fortunately, it was working. What was not working was being this close to Val and breathing steadily at the same point. There was only one thing to do about it. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oops, I lost my earplug.
I love that cover too. I really do.
Gotta put the sound on again.
All right. I have a couple questions for y'all, but I'm going to save them till the end. Yeah.
Okay.
All at once. See, I can't formulate any answers. Surprise questions. Surprise questions. All right, Mr. Cole, how about you next?
Sure. My book, Heart of the Storm. It's the story of Juliet and Sienna, and they're in a very complicated situation because Juliet has a son with Will, who is her college fling, and Sienna, who is her son's stepmom, is about to become divorced from Will. She's staying at their house while her roof is being repaired, and some feelings that neither of them planned to have came up, and now they don't know what to do. So this is one of the nights that Juliet is staying at Sienna's house. All right. Sienna changed into a silk nightshirt and turned off all the lights. She went through her nightly skincare routine, tried to read the book that she'd had lying on her nightstand for the last month, scrolled through her phone for a few minutes, and then decided that it was useless. Her brain was too full, moving from one subject to another, and always back to the one person she shouldn't be thinking of. She stared up at the ceiling for a few minutes and then threw the covers off angrily. She sat in the oversized chair near her vanity, still in the dark. Her nightshirt was tucked under her knees, her toes curling and uncurling in response to her indecision. She wasn't sure if she should just burst into Juliet's room and tell her that they needed to talk, or if it would just be awkward and tense for the foreseeable future. The door to Juliet's room was made of both iron and cardboard. Too much, not enough. It turned out that she didn't need to make that decision. Sienna heard her door snick softly open. She watched as Juliet tiptoed into the room a few feet, presumably assumed that Sienna was sleeping, and attempted to slink back out. I'm here. Sienna broke the silence. She didn't bother to whisper. Declan slept like the dead. Juliet jumped. Jesus, Sienna, why are you sitting in the dark? Why are you in here? Sienna asked, ignoring her question. I couldn't sleep. Neither could I. Juliet closed the door behind her and stumbled in the dark until she was sitting on the edge of Sienna's bed. Even in the dark, Sienna could tell she was hesitant and uncomfortable. Are you angry? Sienna's voice was softer now. Juliet chuckled bitterly. Not for any rational reason, Sienna. I just don't want to sweep this whole thing under the rug and be weird around each other anymore. We can acknowledge it, get past it, and move on. We don't need that kiss to define what we are to each other. Or maybe we do. I don't know. We're treading dangerous waters. Sienna tucked her knees under her chin, suddenly feeling chilled. I know, but I feel like if I don't tread, I'll drown. We've been dismissing whatever this thing is between us for a while now. Okay, Sienna took in a monumental breath. I've known this for some time, but what happened in the basement confirmed it for me. I'm attracted to you. That was putting it mildly. Same. Sienna rolled her eyes in the darkness. Good, so we've admitted that we have an attraction toward each other. Does that clear anything up? You know it doesn't. I do know that. Then maybe we shouldn't have to drag it out of each other. Just tell me, Sienna said, though her heart was pounding out of her chest. She was petrified to hear what Juliet had to say. She was even more afraid that she'd never hear it. This is hard for me, Sienna. I think, I'm pretty sure anyway, that it's more than an attraction. I like you. Sienna swallowed. Okay. Yeah. Juliet fidgeted on the bed. Sienna heard her foot smack against its wooden leg. So I think it's been a long time coming. Since that day we drove Deck to summer camp, there was like this little spark, and it wasn't huge or anything, but it was there, and it never went out. And then we went out for coffee, and I saw you around a couple times, and it grew a little bit more each time I saw you. But I ignored it. And then we started working together, and it just kind of ballooned into this bonfire I can't control anymore. So, yeah. Sienna could feel the vulnerability exuding off Juliet, which only made her want her more. Everything Juliet said stabbed her in the heart with an ice pick. She wanted to cry, but pushed it down as far as it would go. I feel that way too, Juliet, Sienna said. She could barely elevate her voice above a whisper. I'm trying to be rational about this, in any way that I can. I know a fair amount about the human psyche, and infatuations are common, especially when the object of the infatuation is off limits. Juliet stood. She paced back and forth. It's not an infatuation. I'm not interested in you because you're off limits. How do you know? I just know. This isn't my first rodeo, although it probably seems like it. Sienna didn't want to push. This was the most open they'd ever been with each other, so forcing Juliet to admit something she didn't believe certainly wouldn't help the communication. What about Will? Sienna asked. I love Will. I'll always love him. He's a good friend and a good father, and we've been through a lot over the years. He would hate me if he knew how I felt. Same question goes for you. What about Will? Sienna sighed. I don't want to hurt him. That has never been my goal, but we're not getting back together. I'll always care about him, and he'll always be important to me in one way or another, but I've let this linger for much too long. I've been ready to move on with my life for years at this point, but I was so determined not to hurt anyone or blow up a perfect life that I just sat idly by and watched the days and nights pass in front of me. I can't do that anymore. I won't.
All right. That sounds fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Guest appearances appearing behind you.
Oh, sorry.
Should have stopped and said hi. All right, Miss Jaycie, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
All right. This is from my novel. It's the first contemporary romance I've written called The Pound Jar. And it starts, Emily Harris is a horror fiction writer who's just settling into a place for her summer beach vacation. And in the process, she's met Mrs. Janser, the housekeeper for the rental properties, and her adult daughter, Beck, who works with her. Observing Beck's delight at meeting a writer, her mother then privately explained to Emily that Beck suffered a brain injury when she was younger, and she doesn't want her confused by outsiders. So this scene begins that next morning. So exhausted my hands were shaking, I hit a wrong key twice before successfully punching the number from the housekeeper's card into my cell phone. Mrs. Janser, I blurted as soon as the call was answered. No, someone replied, this is her daughter. How may I help you? I recognized the voice now, and for some reason, her obvious effort to be formal calmed me. Oh, hi, Beck. It's Emily Harris, the lady who rented the guest house we met yesterday. Hi, she sounded genuinely excited. How was your first night? I was relieved not to have to broach the subject myself. About that, there were some horrible noises that seemed to be coming from the downstairs area, but I wasn't about to go looking by myself in the dark. Hoping to add some levity and not sound totally gutless, I added, we all know what happens in the movies when a woman investigates sounds like that. There was a slight pause. I don't think I do know, she said finally, but I don't like to see people get hurt, if that's what you mean. Yes, well, bottom line, I can't tolerate those terrible sounds every night, so I was hoping your mother could check on the situation. But the thing is, Mama's already gone to work across the sound. She won't be back till supper. I sighed. I would need to start for the city well before then if this couldn't be worked out. Well, could you come? I need to figure out if I can stay here, and I'm not going into that garage by myself. Sure, she sounded excited by the idea. I can be there within an hour. I went to change out of my pajamas and spent a few minutes at the bathroom mirror. When I heard her scooter, I hurried downstairs with the house flashlight. She grinned and said hi, and I couldn't help smiling back, even though I primarily wanted to get this matter resolved and get to work. Thank you for coming. I hope your mother won't mind you're here. Oh, no, I called and explained what was going on. Her eyes drifted away from my face. She said I mustn't make an annoyance of myself. I didn't like her being made to feel that way about her mere presence, so I gave her shoulder a quick, awkward pat. I'm sure you would never do that. In fact, you're doing me a huge favor by getting here so quickly. I pointed at the bottom half of the house. And by being willing to go into that garage. Beck squared her shoulders, which I am. She took the flashlight and walked to the door. I followed and she looked around, surprised. Are you coming in too? Maybe, I answered hesitantly, holding out my cell phone. Someone has to be prepared to call 911. She snorted derisively. You haven't met our sheriff, have you? When I shook my head, she turned the doorknob. In this situation, he'd be behind both of us. The door creaked as she opened it, and I caught a puff of cool, stale air. She pushed her head and half her body inside and stilled. I hear something, she whispered. Some faint squeaking sounds and maybe someone moving. After she disappeared into the gloom, I stood for about 5 seconds before mentally kicking myself. I followed. When Beck's form turned toward me with her finger to her lips, I stopped and listened. Along with the squeaks, I heard something else, a faint rumbling. What is it? I whispered after a few seconds, unable to stand the suspense. I made a mental note to lessen the amount of time my characters suffered through similar scenes. I think I know where to look, so I'm going to turn on the flashlight, she murmured softly. I tensed, sighting the doorway and preparing to run. 911 could wait until I got outside. The beam of light swept across the far edge of the room, which was apparently under my bedroom. Nestled in some rags in the corner was a cat, purring loudly as she curled around what appeared to be 5 mewling babies. Kittens! The awe in Beck's voice was unmistakable. I laughed weakly, feeling relieved and more than a little foolish, until her hand found my forearm and slid down until it wrapped around my palm. Holding hands wasn't something I did. Gestures like that were silly, romantic moves that had no place in my life, but I remained frozen, unable to pull away. She turned to me, joy evident on her face. New life. I only nodded, still sorting through my reaction alternatives. Jerk my hand away? Ask her to let go? Squeeze her hand gently in response and get upstairs as quickly as I could? Beck looked back at the feline family. Most likely what you heard last night was her delivery cries and maybe the babies fussing for milk at first. I'm sure it won't happen again. The mother cat stirred restlessly and Beck turned the light off, whispering, We should go. She might not be used to people and we're disturbing her. Still holding my hand, she led me outside. When she let go, along with relief, I experienced an odd loss of connection. What should I do now? I asked. Call animal control or something? She studied me thoughtfully. You could do that, she said, or not. Or not, I echoed. But what will happen to them if I don't? Nothing. What do you mean, nothing? I hated this parroting thing, but Beck wasn't being particularly forthcoming. They'd just get to grow up here instead of in a tiny cage, while the likelihood of them being killed increased while their odds of being adopted decreased. But won't I have to feed them if they stay here? I asked urgently. I mean, I don't know the first thing about taking care of cats. I think... She trailed off, looking out at the ocean. I waited, but she seemed to have forgotten we were in the middle of a discussion. Beck? I asked, keeping my tone mild. I'm thinking about a report one of my homeschool friends did, she said, still facing away. As I struggled to connect the dots of the conversation, she turned back to me, adding, it was about cats. I'm pretty sure I could tell you how to take care of them. We were standing in the full sun, and sweat was forming along my brow. Look, I can't put two thoughts together at the moment. I hardly slept at all, and I haven't had any coffee. Is there a cafe in town that's any good? As if on cue, her stomach growled, and at her embarrassed blush, I began to laugh. Okay, breakfast will be my treat to thank you for saving me from that vicious mother cat and her obviously murderous gang of kittens. She nodded. Then I'll show you the grocery store afterwards, and you can stock up for the next week or so. Including cat food? I asked, my tone playful. If I hadn't been watching, I would have missed a hopeful expression that quickly disappeared. The thing is, I don't know you well enough to know if you're teasing me or not, she said after a few seconds. Do you find it hard to know what people really mean sometimes? For one wild second, I thought to tell her my never-fail strategy for dealing with people. If you expect the worst, you'll never be disappointed. Okay, look, I'll buy the cat food if you'll take care of whatever they need. I don't want to be responsible and I don't want to be disturbed when it's feeding time, so you'll have to come and go quietly. If you don't think you can manage those conditions, I'll have to call animal control. Beck grinned that infectious smile and put out her hand. Deal. We shook, and this time her touch wasn't such a shock.
Very nice, very nice.
Thank you.
Who doesn't love cats?
Right? And kittens.
Like Melissa Braden with the puppies for Christmas. All right, this next lady, I like to listen to her on audiobooks. And last year I was listening to an audiobook and I weed-eated my feet. Really
I'll
caught
never live it down.
So, fair warning. All right, Miss Fiona. And she's got the cutest kids ever.
It's true. I'm totally biased, but it's true. So I am Fiona Riley. If you don't know who I am, I write contemporary lesbian romance. And I'm actually going to be reading to you today from a Christmas novella I wrote with Georgia Beers and Maggie Cummings. My story is called A Christmas Miracle. So it's a little after Christmas, so forgive me, but it's a cute story. I think you'll like it. So the book itself is in this scene is in the perspective of Courtney Rivers, who has just booked the Mirage, which is a fictional bar in Boston, as a Christmas buyout party for her business. And the owner of the bar, Mira Donahue, is sort of a Christmas Grinch, whereas Courtney is obsessed with Christmas. She's self-proclaimed queen of carols. She loves everything Christmas. And this party is really important. If she gets this party to go off without a hitch, then she can get a promotion that she's been gunning for a long time. So this is sort of a test for her. She needs this to be successful. She came to the bar today to meet with the liaison, the party planner, who's gone out on maternity leave. So she's never met Mira. So she knows she has to get together with her today, but she's never met her before. She got to the bar a little early, and she's been talking to the bartender who's on, which is a woman named Tegan, and she's been absentmindedly staring at this very attractive woman down the bar when Tegan bags her and is like, listen, stop checking her out, just, do what you're doing. And she's like, I'm sorry, and just, I think she's cute, and she's totally distracted. So the scene starts with Courtney talking to Tegan, and Tegan being called away by the woman that she's been staring at, who she's been affectionately calling in her mind Lady McHotlips, okay? So as Tegan walked past, McHotlips asked, can you make a cranberry vodka martini for the woman by the window? Sure. Tegan grabbed a glass and started reaching for the bottle when she paused to add, oh, by the way, this is Courtney, and she thinks you're cute. McHotlips arched a perfectly sculpted eyebrow in Courtney's direction, and she wanted to sink under the bar from embarrassment. I thought bartenders were supposed to be great secret keepers, Courtney muttered as she toyed with the napkin under her drink. That's probably a stereotype that's unfairly applied to most of us. Tegan can't keep a secret to save her life. McHotlips flashed an award-winning smile, and Courtney was reconsidering her nickname for her. But I can. Good to know who to and who not to share my innermost secrets with then, Courtney said, finding it hard not to be mesmerized by the woman in front of her. You can tell me anything. This woman was beyond charming. Something tells me you say that to all the girls, Courtney replied. Only the ones that think I'm cute. Courtney dropped her head into her hands, mortified. If it makes you feel any better, the feeling's mutual. The soft, flirty reply emboldened Courtney to peek between her fingers just to confirm what she thought she heard. She had McHotlip's full attention, so much so that she was leaning her forearms on the bar closer than she had been minutes before. Almost dangerously close, Courtney would say. Oh, well, thanks. Courtney sat up a little straighter, trying not to blush. Thank you for thinking I'm cute, she said. To be fair, cute didn't really cross my mind. I was thinking more along the lines of Courtney put her hand over her mouth to stop herself. What did Tegan put into this mocktail? This garnered another arched eyebrow, this time accompanied by a licked lower lip. Courtney was a goner. Can I get you another? Another what? She was staring at the woman's mouth, not paying attention. Drink? She motioned to the glass Courtney hadn't realized she'd drained. I probably shouldn't. I'm meeting someone soon. Courtney was only vaguely aware of the reason she was here today, because if flirting with this woman wasn't the true reason she was here, then the day seemed like a waste. McHotlips checked the receipt and the empty glass Tegan left at the inner edge of the bar. Looks like you were having a mocktail. Let me make you another. On the house. Okay. Courtney agreed largely because McHotlips had already taken her glass and had replaced it with a fresh one. Any requests? Something festive, Courtney replied, though she had a thought that anything this woman made her would be delightful. I've got just the thing. She winked, and Courtney felt herself swoon. Courtney watched as she expertly moved behind the bar, and after a few moments, she returned with an elegant-looking cocktail. What is it? A virgin version of our pomegranate royale, which normally contains pomegranate juice, champagne, and pomegranate seeds to add some texture to the drink. It's very popular. McHotlips was leaning on the bar again. The cuff of her right sleeve appeared to have rolled down from making Courtney's drink. It looks wonderful. Thank you. Courtney gave in to her desire to fix the wayward sleeve and touch the gorgeous, charming bartender. She carefully rolled the end of the shirt sleeve and tucked the fabric into itself, securing it on the other side. Try it. McHotlips placed a hand on the one Courtney still had on her forearm. She gave it a gentle squeeze, and Courtney let her hand linger before returning to her glass. Courtney sipped the drink and held the bartender's gaze. This was fantastic and very festive. Exactly the type of thing she wanted to have at the company party. Shit. The meeting. You don't like it? The warm eyes looked concerned. No, yes, I do. It's incredible. Courtney shook her head to clear the lust fog she was in. I seem to keep forgetting about the meeting I'm supposed to be having, and I blame you. Sorry, not sorry. A wicked grin that accompanied the reply did little to dissipate Courtney's newfound infatuation with this woman. After a pause, the woman asked, is the meeting for work or pleasure? Work, though the only thing on Courtney's mind at the moment was pleasure. Work can wait, she replied with that same sexy tone from earlier. I have to admit, I'm glad it isn't a pleasure meeting. Why's that? Courtney asked. I'm not ready to have to fight anyone off for your attention. Those pink lips parted, and Courtney wanted to taste them. Oh, and do you think you have my full attention now? She asked as she realized she was leaning in. Oh, I know I do, and I like it that way. McHotlips was killing her. You know, it occurs to me that I don't know your name yet, but you know mine thanks to that traitor, Tegan. And though I'm happy to keep using the one I've made up in my mind, I'd like to know your actual name. So you can scream it later? Courtney felt her jaw drop and her sex clench. McHotlips reached across the bar and took Courtney's free hand. I'm kidding. Courtney shifted in her seat. Too bad. McHotlips surveyed her curiously while still holding her hand. What's the name you've been calling me in your head? The formal name or the informal name? Courtney turned her hand over and stifled a shudder as McHotlips traced lazy circles on her palm. Let's start with the informal name. McHotlips, Courtney said. She would have been embarrassed if she hadn't been too entranced by this woman's touch to care. She laughed that sexy laugh from before. And the formal name? Lady McHotlips. She stopped her ministrations to briefly squeeze Courtney's hand before pulling back. I hope my lips are as worthy of this regal title. They appear to be. Courtney made no attempt to look anywhere else. Maybe we should just do a test to confirm your assumptions. She leaned forward, and Courtney wondered how quickly she could vault over this bar. First, a name, please. Courtney bit her bottom lip to keep herself seated. Are you sure? Kissing a stranger seems like something really sexy right now. She leaned closer still. Courtney squeezed her thighs together. This woman's confidence and swagger were impressive, and Courtney certainly wanted to kiss her, among other things. And if we do, and it's as good as I imagine it will be, what will I moan into your ear when I ask for more? She asked, fishing for a name. Please would probably do the trick, McHotlips answered. Courtney laughed because she'd walked right into that one. I have excellent manners, Courtney said. I might even say thank you afterwards. After what, exactly? Courtney had meant kissing, but the conversation seemed to be taking a different tone, which she didn't hate. Whatever, she said with a playful shrug. She was rewarded with a broad smile. This is getting better and better. So, she motioned across the bar. Name, you are? Mira, she replied, and took Courtney's hand. And it's very, very nice to meet you. Mira. It was a beautiful name to fit such a gorgeous woman who was looking at her like there was no one else in the entire room. And Courtney was all for that. Mira. Wait, why did that sound so familiar? Shit, you're Mira. We did just talk about that. No, you're Mira Donahue. Are you going to serve me with a subpoena or something? What? No, I'm just supposed to be meeting with you right now. We were kind of in a meeting, don't you think? Mira teased as she momentarily forgot why she was freaked out. Because of course the most beautiful woman in the room was flirting with her, was also the point person for the most important meeting of her life. I hate myself, and I hate my life. Why? Because I'm Courtney. I gathered that. Courtney Rivers, you're 3 o'clock.
Great books, one and all. All right. Thank you, Ms. Fiona. All right, I am going to go last for anyone that does not know me. I'm Vali. I have quite a few things in the works right now that I'm editing, writing, doing all kinds of finished, printed. But I'm going to be reading today. I don't have the actual book yet, but I have, of course, this is the cover for the new one. So it's The Devil Incarnate. And I usually start reading from page 1, but this book starts, I'm not going to do that today because then I will blush all day long. And this is being filmed, so no. This is the afterglow. So, this is the 7th in the Devil series, and it kind of picks up exactly where we left off in the last one. It's begins in around Mardi Gras season in New Orleans, and Cain is doing things that Cain does. So, you know, there's a few recurring, I try to find new and inventive ways to kill people, but we'll have some are really popular, so I brought some of those back. So this is, she's getting her morning started, so with her cousin Muriel. So Muriel was waiting for Cain in the office, in the office reading over a file. When she glanced up, she wanted to groan at Muriel's expression. Go ahead and tell me. Cain stared at the ceiling and shook her head. It sounded like a stampede out of control cattle above them, and she smiled at the sound. Once Hannah was up, she knew only one way to move in the world, and that was at full throttle. No matter what you've heard, I seldom kill the messenger. There's always a first time, Muriel said and laughed. She smiled, liking that Muriel was almost back to the woman she'd grown up with. After the death of her Uncle Jarvis, she'd been afraid she'd lose Muriel to the pain and the guilt. Muriel had been hard to reach, but what had cut through all that was the same thing that had saved Cain when she'd lost so much. The love of a woman had finally given Muriel hope for the future. That union had the potential to bind their families to the Hati bones was an added bonus. I understand that life is a bag of shit sometimes, cousin, but we have no choice but to shovel through it or throw it back in the yard it came out of. She sighed her head. Helping Finn and Abigail wasn't up for debate, but she sighed again, but it's going to haunt us until the ghosts of the past are put to rest in a more permanent way. Special Agent Finley Abbott of the FBI was now on her payroll, and she'd given her the keys to the kingdom. Finn was her first cousin and someone she didn't feel any differently about than Muriel or Caitlin. Her trust in her was absolute. After dedicating herself to hunting down scum who dealt in human trafficking, Finley had retired because of her last case. That's where she'd met Abigail Eaton and her 3 children. Finn had fallen in love with Abigail as well as the children, but she'd also taken on Abigail's problems. Those problems weren't simple to fix, even when Cain's inventive problem-solving skills. Getting it wrong would come with stiff penalties. Do you honestly think that Nicola Eaton is still alive? Muriel appeared skeptical, but Kane believed Abigail, the one woman alive who knew Nicola best. Nicola Eaton, or Nicola Antikov, had been Abigail's partner and had also owned the Hellfire Club in town. Kane had kept an eye on it from the beginning, but brothels weren't her style. There were plenty of supposed bad guys in New Orleans, but the Russian mob was a whole nother animal, the kind you never turned your back on. Then again, there were brothels, and then there was the Hellfire Club. The Hellfire Club was a place where every sexual appetite, no matter how depraved, was catered to. That was fine. Whatever two consenting people thought was fun was okay, to each his own. The problem was that it had only been the customers who were having fun. The women under Nicola's control were trapped in servitude, and not many escaped alive. Nicola's parents, David and Valerie, are the only two I'm sure about, she said. The Eaton couple were a dead subject. They'd met with her and asked for Abigail's head on a pike, selling it as poor grandparents losing the battle to see their grandchildren because of their bitch birth mother. That lie, and the reason they really wanted Abigail found, was why they'd paid at the end of Finley's spray of bullets. All I know is to trust the person who knew her best. And Abigail says she's not dead. But why the ruse? Finley might be the answer to that, or I should say Special Agent Abbott knows the answer. Finn's investigation was getting close, so Nicola did the best thing that she could to get her head out of the noose. If you're trapped with no escape, what better than death to throw the feds off your ass? She thought about the tall woman who'd introduced herself as Nicola Eaton the night they'd met at Ramon Hatibon's club, and the way she carried herself. There was no denying Nicola was a bitch, no matter what last name she went by. So go ahead and tell me what you have to say. I got a call from an associate in New York, and she told me there's plenty of money on the street here for any information about you. Whoever gets the full story on you is in for a big payday. I had no idea I was that interesting. She glanced at her watch, and when she heard the running above her head, heading for the stairs with Emma talking loudly. Any ideas who's behind it? Not yet, but I offered up more cash to make it a two-way street of information. Good. That's one more thing we'll have to discuss when we head somewhere I don't feel so hemmed in. Do you have time for breakfast? She stood and took off her jacket to leave it in the office. Lead the way. Hannah Marie Casey, if you don't stop running, I swear, Emma said as Kane reached the bottom of the stairs in time to catch Hannah when she jumped from the 7th step up. Why must you encourage her? Emma asked as she gripped the railing and seemed to start breathing again. Because fearless people come to rule the world, Kane said, kissing Hannah's cheek. Isn't that right, Hannah girl? What do you say? Sorry, Mama, Hannah said, appearing anything but, as she gazed up at her mother with a smile. She put Hannah down when Emma handed her the baby. You're as incorrigible as she is. Emma's hand stayed on Kane's arm as Emma stuck her tongue out at her. Lassie, you say that like it's a bad thing. So that is, all right, everybody unmute yourselves. We have one, let's see what the question is. All right. Yeah, we have a question from the audience, and it's from Miss Jaycie about character development in The Found Jar. Jaycie, I love the kitten scene you read. Beck is so capable and so sweet. Emily, your narrator, is in contrast with such a prickly character. So what was it like crafting Emily, a really difficult, even unlikable character, when you attempt to redeem her early on in the story? Do you worry about readers giving up on her? Miss Jaycie, what do you have to say to that?
Well, she's absolutely right. Emily is very prickly. That's a really nice way to put it, actually. Her friends say much less nice things about her to her face, and she doesn't care. But she has her reasons, for being that way. And I think that's part of what the reader comes to know about her as the book goes on. I don't want to give away a spoiler, so I'm not going to say what it is, but it was actually kind of fun to write her because we have our tropes and we have our reliable characters that we enjoy, but writing someone a little prickly it's a fine line. You know, you don't want to make her too unlikable. You don't want the readers to give up on her, but she had to be out there sometimes. And part of the fun of the story was watching her change and watching her learn to let herself, you know, accept a softer side and accept a more loving side. And but that was a fun thing to do, and different for me. So that was great. Thank you for asking.
Thank you from our audience. Remember, you could put questions in that Q&A box. It's down on the right-hand corner. So my first question is, what is everyone working on? So next, what's up next for you? Miss Fiona, what you got?
So I'm in the end of writing another series. My first book in this series is Bet Against Me, that came out in September. The sequel is getting ready to go to print. That'll be out in the spring, and I'm in the close to middle end of writing the third and last book of the series, which is Beginner's Bet. So the first book follows colleagues of this real estate firm. The first one follows Trina, and then her next friend, the next book is her best friend Lauren, and the last book is Ellison's, and that's her boss. So that's what's on the docket right now. Trying.
Oh, what you got coming up next? You hear me? Nicole, what
I
you got
actually don't have anything.
coming up?
I don't have anything I'm working on right now, but going through the idea process at the moment.
You should watch Little Fires Everywhere on Hulu. It's really good. Give you some ideas.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of the wilds right now. That's pretty good.
How about Miss Nancy? What you got coming up?
I ducked out to grab it. This is the cover. It's called Veterinary Surgeon. It's book 3. Takes place in the same area of Saskatchewan, and it centers around a new veterinarian at the clinic who's a surgical specialist and the local RCMP officer.
All right. And then Miss Jaycie, what you got coming up next?
Yeah, I'm working on one now that's also semi-contemporary, the 80s. I don't know. I'm old, so it seems like history to me, but it's yeah, I'm calling it right now, my working title is The Perfect Fifth, because it's about a pianist, and a fifth is an interval of notes. If you think the song Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, between the first and second twinkle is a perfect fifth. And in Western music, it's considered an attractive sound. I also like the title because it's my 5th book. So hopefully it'll be perfect. But yeah, so it features this piano player and then a group of 4 friends. And she kind of comes in and becomes their perfect fifth or their worst fifth, depending on who was with whom to start with. So that's what I'm working on now.
All right. No, I have coming up after, well, the Devil book comes out next month, The Devil Incarnate. And then after that, in the spring, sometimes, I can't remember exactly when, A Woman to Treasure, which is a treasure hunt. And it's a way for me to write off my trip that I took to Morocco. And
I gotta start doing research with you.
This year I've been stuck at home like all day. It's like, oh my God, I'm getting old and I have all this stuff on my bucket list and I can't go anywhere. But we have another question, which is a really good question. It says, thank you for sharing a bit of your writing. Over your writing careers, how have your writing styles changed, if at all? So, Fiona, since it's in row top of my screen, go ahead, Miss Fiona.
So I'm sort of relatively new to writing compared to Allie, who's got 87 books out. I'm working on, this is my 9th, the one that I'm working on now. And it's my 2nd series. I would say, if anything, I think I write a little bit of a longer book, which I know Allie writes a long book. I think that in that regard, that has gotten a little different. I still tend to write a contemporary romance that's a little on the steamier side. Allie has named herself a few times because of that. I am proud of that, and I don't feel bad at all. So we're steel-toed shoes. I think, for me, that's pretty much all that's changed. I've definitely reached out on my tropes a little bit more. This last book is going to be an age gap romance. I haven't tried that. But I did A Secret Baby Root. I did, Best Friends to Lovers. I've done Enemies to Lovers, and Jaycie was talking about that, about not making someone too prickly. I have a lot of people tell me that Trina Lee in this first Bet Against Me book is a little spiky. and she is. But I think she softens as she goes. But that was kind of a new one. So for me, it's more engaging and new tropes I haven't tried. But I think for the most, my writing style is mostly the same.
How about you, Miss Nancy?
Well, veterinary surgeon is book 3, so I think I get to be the newbie today. I'd say my writing's changed a lot from book 1. Allie knows we have an awesome editor, and she's helped a lot, steer me down the path. So I feel and I hope that my characters are getting clearer and a little crisper on what their paths are. And I think I've struck a little bit better balance between, too many animal stories and concentrating a little bit more on the characters, a little less all creatures great and small, and a little more L word in the books. So that's the way I've gone.
Yeah, Victoria always puts me up as things not to do. Galley, things not to do. All right, Miss Nicole, how about you?
I think that my character development has grown a little bit. This is only my 3rd book, but from the first to this last one, I think they're more fleshed out. And my first book, Secrets in a Small Town, was an enemies to lovers. That's my favorite trope. But I had made my Ice Queen really prickly, like too much. And I remember our editor, Victoria, was like, why is she so awful? And I really had to tone it down, because I was like, I don't think she's so bad, but apparently she was. So I think I've turned the corner on that a little bit.
How about you, Miss Jaycie?
Yeah, mine's definitely changed in the sense that my first 3 books were a historical romance series set during World War II, and they were all written in 3rd person. And then this Found Jar that I've just published is contemporary and it's 1st person. So writing in 1st person was new for me, and it was really kind of fun. Except I'm writing as the prickly character, so I was probably a little prickly myself at times. But I did face the challenges of, okay, so this character's just left the room. How does she know what happened after she left? It's different when you're in 3rd person because you can hop into that other character's head. But with 1st, it was a little different, but it was fun. I enjoyed doing it, and it was a learning experience, which was also good.
All right. I guess mine has changed in the sense that, one of the things that changed it was actually Audible books. When you read a book and then you actually listen to a book, especially Fiona and I have one of the things we have in common is Laurie Prince. And then, so, you want an entertaining afternoon is to listen to Laurie Prince read sex. It's really something. So she is awesome. She's a Broadway actress, but no, and the first books, and I was like, one of the change was to have more talking during those. And then now with Victoria as my editor, I've paid more attention to emotion. I have to put more emotion in here. So now we have Cain, and she's still killing people, but she's doing it with much more emotion. So she has a more sensitive side in this book. So let's see how that works. But we're almost out of time. And one of the things that I wanted to remind everyone is that I wanted to thank all of our panelists today. That was some awesome readings.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks everybody for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Allie.